How we doing? How we doing? This is Destination Denver, Colorado, and today I've got a great one for you. I'm telling you everything you need to know about moving to Denver, Colorado when you're single. Let's do it. So this is Destination Denver, Colorado. I am your host, Jimmy Everetts, and listen, if you're interested in learning all the pros and cons, ins and outs to moving to or around Denver, Colorado, then this is going to be the channel for you. So having said that, make sure to click that subscribe button as well as the notification icon down below, as I'm dropping 2 videos for you each and every week talking about those very things. And listen, as much as I love getting a little creative here on camera, I enjoy even more being a resource for you in any way, shape, or form I can. So that number and email popping up below, I'm always the person answering your phone calls, answering your texts, answering your emails, there when and if you need me. So now that we have all that fun stuff out of the way, let's get to what we're here for, and that is to talk about everything you need to know about moving to Denver, Colorado when you're moving alone. So first and foremost, what I can't emphasize enough to you is that even though you're moving here alone, you are not alone. So Denver over the last 10 years has seen an increase in its population of over 110,000 people, or a little more than 19%. And that's just the city of Denver. That population currently sits at about 750,000. So when you think about a city of 750,000 that has seen an increase of 110,000, that's a lot. And it's not just Denver. If you look at all the counties that surround Denver, Adams, Arapahoe, Broomfield, Jefferson, all of them are in double digits, with the exception, I should say, of Jefferson County, which saw about a 9% increase. So there is a flood of people moving to Denver, Colorado, and a lot of them are doing it by themselves. Now, I myself love this topic because even though I grew up in Denver, I left for the military, I was gone for 12 years, and when I came back by myself. So I think about where Denver was in 2008 when I returned and where it is now, and it is as good a time and as exciting a time to just come to this city as ever before. And so this made me start thinking about all the things I would take advantage of if I were just moving here by myself, if I could do it all over again. Now, granted, I'm engaged now, so I'm not saying that I wish I was single and brand new to Denver, but you get the idea. So I emphasize you're not alone. Now let's talk about point number 2, and that is the people of Denver just have a really good vibe about them. And maybe that's because I'm a homer that I say that, but the energy in Colorado is on point, and that's pretty much statewide. But in Denver, you're gonna see a lot of outgoing people, energetic. They like to stay active, they like to get out and about, they like to mingle, they like to network. And so when you get surrounded by it, you're not in an environment where people are gonna be shut in. I don't know if you've experienced certain communities. I have, living all over the nation. I've experienced certain places where it took people a long time to really open up to you and just let you be part of their tribe or hell, even part of the table. I like to compare, Denver isn't quite like Midwest nice. If any of you are watching from the Midwest, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, the type of place you walk into someone's house in Ohio and their grandmother, their mother, their brothers, their cousins, they're like instant friends, instant family. Denver's not quite there, but from just a friendly standpoint, from people smiling at you as you walk by them on the street, to people being outgoing, to people not being intimidated by the fact that you want to come up to them and say hello, and they're not intimidated to walk up to you and say hello, it's as good a vibe and as positive an energy output as you're gonna find, at least anywhere I've experienced. And I would add that the people of Denver are pretty down to earth, and one of the great things about this population boom is that you're also seeing an increase in diversity. I mean, you're getting people from all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of locations, race, colors, creeds, genders, you name it. There is this mixing pot effect happening in Denver. And so you get that good energy base that I told you about, and you add in all of these people. So even, you know, some of my fellow New Yorkers coming in, I say fellow, I lived there for a while, but you get some of those folks coming in, and we just kind of blend together into this environment where you have a little bit of everything here. And there's a big networking circuit here in Denver. People really want to get around, meet new people. And I thought when I switched professions 3.5, call it 4 years ago, I knew I needed to meet a lot of people, but I underestimated how many people were networking just for the sake of networking. It's not just professional. So you check out Facebook, Eventbrite, meetup.com. You're gonna find all sorts of different groups. Professional, certain sectors. You're gonna have, just kind of drinking buddies. And then there are certain activities they sponsor. You'll have groups for hiking or biking or workout groups, yoga groups, people who like to read books and read it to each other, poetry. I'm just rambling right now. Live with that. And so when I think about first moving back to this state in 2008, that stuff really wasn't around at the time. There wasn't as many of those organized activities. You met people the old-fashioned way. You met them through work or you met them through other friends you made. Now, the ability to connect with more people if you want, depending if you're extra extroverted, and you want to get out and about, limitless potential all over the city to be around people. And you're gonna find that people in Denver, by and large, we're a very active city. It's one of the healthier communities you're gonna find in the nation. So people are going to the gym, they're getting outside, they're going to parks, they're playing volleyball, softball, kickball. They're going to Red Rocks Amphitheater, not just for shows, which you need to do, but they're going to Red Rocks to work out or do yoga on the rocks on the weekends. So there's always people doing something, moving to the next thing, a great place to meet people. Heck, I always tell them, go to the gym. Whether you're into fitness or you're trying to get into fitness, it's a great opportunity. I know a lot of my friends now are people that I met at circuit gyms where we all worked out together afterwards. What better thing to do after you work out than grab a beer, grab a coffee? So be prepared. The more active you are, the easier you're gonna find it to connect with people here. So the third point I'd make, and we talk about it all the time, but the weather in Denver is just outstanding. We get the 300 days of sunshine. You hear it all the time. I'm sure there are some years where we only get 298 and somebody's lying to us, but you get the point. Now, the reason the weather is always talked about and the reason that we dwell on it so much is because depending on where you're from and depending on the weather you have experienced, there is something about blue skies, sunshine, 300 days out of the year that just makes you want to get outside more often. And the fact that people in this city love to stay active, if they can get outside as well, it just gives us so many more opportunities to be around each other, to enjoy each other's company, and to do different things we like. I will tell you, when I first moved back to Denver, and I keep saying when I first moved back in 2008, I wasn't an outdoorsy guy. I was a city person. I was the guy that wanted to sit at a bar inside, shoot the breeze with my buddies, and watch football. The idea of going for a hike or going out on a bike ride did not appeal to me. I might go to the park and play some basketball, but I wasn't thinking about throwing up a volleyball net in the middle of a summer day. It just wasn't my thing. When you get here, even if it's not your vibe now, it just kind of draws you in. And it's one of those things. I can't tell you how many people I have met in my experiences here going to a park, not even on a summer day. We're talking spring, fall, and random ass days in the winter, but going to a park with one friend or a couple buddies, running into a group of others, and then all of a sudden you're out with an entire group. And it's science. The more sun you get, within reason, but the more you're outdoors and the more vitamin D you get, the better you're going to feel. It's just a mood enthusiasm improver. That was some of the worst wording I have ever used, but we're gonna leave that in the video just so I can make fun of myself later. So point number 4, if you're thinking about moving here alone, a little overwhelmed, and you're probably thinking about what you're gonna do for work if you don't already have a transfer, you don't already have a job lined up, is Denver has one of the strongest economies you're gonna find in the nation. And we have, even getting through the crash of 2008, we've had financial growth in this state for the last 25 years. So you have an economy where there's a lot of different industries. It's not reliant on one. If you asked me that question back in 2012, 2013, I would tell you that Denver, at least from a high-paying job standpoint, is an oil and gas town, and that's the field. Something related to oil and gas is what you're going to have to get into if you want a high-paying job. That's not the case anymore. Oil and gas is still big here, but you're seeing finance jobs, accounting positions, bioscience, aerospace, government work. all sorts of industries in this town that are providing high-paying jobs. You're seeing the average income in Denver rise rapidly, and you're also seeing an influx of entrepreneurship. You're seeing people coming here or who are already here who are developing businesses. I always suggest that people who are thinking about moving here, especially if you have any interest in the tech space, to look up www.builtincolorado.com. I don't suggest that because I get a kickback or anything. Lord knows they don't know who I am. It's just a very useful website, and all of my tech friends tend to tell me it's one of their most popular. So again, that's www.builtincolorado.com. And I would add that Forbes magazine found Denver and found Colorado to be the second best place in the entire country for entrepreneurs. Tax opportunities, growth opportunities, employment opportunities, you name it. I would tell you who's number one, but I wasn't worried about number one. So I just know that Colorado is number two, and we can make some weird, humorous who does number two work for references about that later. All right, so let's get to point number 5, which is going to be pretty important to you if you're thinking about moving to Denver, Colorado by yourself, alone, single, however you call it, and that is that you're going to need to find a place to live. So obviously there are two options there. You're either thinking about buying a home, locating a property and buying it, or you're looking to rent something. So let's take the part that I don't tend to deal with, and that is the rent side first, just so we can kind of get that out of the way. Now, average rent in the Denver metro area is a little over $1,750. That's for a 1-bedroom. Now, don't panic or get too excited by that, because that is, again, when we say the Denver region, an average. There are places that get down $1,400-1,500. And obviously, if you go to certain locations, you're going to pay a premium where you're well over $2,000. Or I'd give you an example of Cherry Creek, which is one of the more affluent neighborhoods in Denver, where a 1-bedroom will cost you somewhere around $3,100 a month. And like anything else, when you're looking at rents, you're going to pay a higher premium depending on the neighborhoods you live in. If you want to be downtown with extreme walkability, if you want to be in some of the hotter, more popular neighborhoods, if you're a little more laid back, you want suburbs, you might pay a little less. If you want more room, you're going to pay more. If you can deal with less room, you're going to pay less. Simple supply and demand on that rental side. As you can see, I'm very well versed in rentals. I joke. Listen, we all rent before we buy. It all works out one way or another. Now, on the flip side, let's say your plan all along is to move to Denver and you are more interested in buying a property, then there are some things you need to understand. Much like the rest of the nation, Denver faces more of a seller's market. That means that buyers have to be a little more choosy. They have to be a little more willing to look for a while. It can be challenging for some. The advantage that I think someone moving to Denver has, that someone that lives here doesn't, is the fact that you are probably not stuck on a specific location. If you've lived here for a while, there's probably, for most people, at least people I work with, there's a region, there's neighborhoods that they've locked into, and they will wait and they'll fight over properties in that one little area, sometimes to their own detriment. You moving to Colorado, you moving to Denver, you have the opportunity to kind of check out everything and see what fits you. You have a little more flexibility and you're a little more fluid in the process, which in my humble and professional opinion is going to be to your advantage. Now, one thing I would add here, and a lot of people that I talk to who are moving to Denver don't know this, one of the biggest concerns they have is, wait a minute, I don't have a job yet, or I have a job lined up, but I haven't started it yet. Well, let's talk about that for a second. So let's say you have a job lined up in Colorado, a salaried position. Maybe you haven't started it yet, but you have an executed contract. You know, I start on this date and this is how much I will be paid for that job in salary. Well, here's the good news. If you have that offer letter and it's executed, you've signed it, they've signed it, a lender can count that as your salary even before you start for the potential purchase of a home. So that's something to keep in mind if you're a little concerned in that realm. And a nice thing about Colorado that helps a lot of people who are moving here and people who already live here who are looking to buy a home is there are multiple down payment assistance or grant programs in which city sections, counties, and the state will provide funds to help people buy a home. And as long as you're in that home for 3 years, you don't have to pay the money back. So that's pretty cool and something I would encourage anybody to look into. Of course, if you're interested in learning anything about that or you have any questions about something I just said, by all means, hit me up in a text, hit me up in an email. I'll answer anything you got at any time. So the last point I want to make, number 6, dating. I know you're gonna want to talk about it because after all, if you're moving here single or moving here by yourself, at some point you're gonna want to get out there and you're not just networking, you're gonna want to mingle. So there's this little rumor that dating in Denver sucks. I don't know if it's still around. I just know I heard it for a long time. Now, granted, I haven't been single in a couple years. I'm engaged now. Those days are over, for better or worse. But what I'll say is this. To me, dating is good if you're out and about meeting people and you're having some luck connecting. If you're going out and you're not, then you're gonna say that dating sucks. So as far as my experiences, 10 plus years dating in Denver, I had some great times, I had some bad. They like to call Denver Menver. I hear that from time to time. But from sheer statistics, while people say that there are more men here than women, that is an inaccurate stat. There are actually a few more females, percentage-wise, than males. I think a lot of that Menver stuff came from early 2011, 2012, 2013, when oil and gas blew up in this city, and a lot of the people that were coming in were men working in oil and gas. That has leveled off. Now, when it comes to dating, the great thing is that Denver has seen its night scene explode over the last several years. So you have all the restaurants, bars, nightclubs, all the things you want to do. A lot of different sections of town. We've talked about a lot of diversity, a lot of different environments, everything you could want. If it's not there yet, it's getting there here in Denver. Now I'm gonna give you a little pro tip. If you're just moving to Denver, especially if you're coming from sea level and you're trying to get out and about, whether you're networking or dating, be aware of the altitude. And I don't just mean from a breathing standpoint, like you're gonna start running wind sprints. I mean, be prepared for how alcohol is going to affect you when you are a mile up. When I go down to sea level, I'm invincible. I can drink vodka waters all day. But if you go from sea level to a mile high, and especially if you leave Denver and go up to the mountains and start drinking, the alcohol will hit you faster. So just be prepared as you get here. Sometimes we feel invincible when we first get to a new city, but just understand that alcohol, chances are, especially if you're coming from a lower altitude, alcohol is going to affect your body differently. And if you're going on dates, I think that's a pretty good thing to know. And while I told you I had 6, we got to give you lucky number 7. And that's if you really think dating sucks or it's not working for you here in Denver, get a dog. Because Denver is one of the most dog-friendly places you will ever see. There are bars that let them in, restaurants that let them in, hotels that let them in. There are dog parks everywhere. I told you how much people like to be outside. That's because everybody is outside walking their dogs. We have these open land areas where you have your dogs off leash and they're just out being little crazy kids that they are, and they all play together. It's fantastic. So if you can't find a good dog at the bar, find a good dog and take him to a park, because you're not going to be lonely in Colorado. Your partner's either going to be 2-legged or 4-legged. And the great thing about 4-legged is you can have as many of them as you want. You can have a little wild kingdom if you want. Now, I'm sure you noticed how excited I got when we transitioned from dating to talking about dogs. Well, that's as excited as I get when I deal with people who are thinking about moving to Denver. So again, that number and email popping up below, I'm always the person answering your calls, answering your texts, answering your emails. Hell, I'll answer a carrier pigeon if you want to send one. This is Destination Denver, Colorado. I am Jimmy Everetts. This has been everything you need to know about moving to Denver, Colorado when you're single. Until next time, peace.